Yo, 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 yo. Hey, it's me, Mike Taylor. This is for ARC 316. This is going to be the second video as a kind of part B to a part A of our D&D assignment 4. So if you stuck around for the first video, thank you for doing that. And if you haven't seen it yet, I would probably go back and watch the previous video so you have an idea of what I'm talking about here. So it's kind of continuation of that video, trying to look at assemblies and getting to our kind of looking at large scale wall sections. So we're going to go all the way from the whole building. We'll do a little 3D wall section if you've seen that already from the previous video, a little two-dimensional wall section cut through, and then further to that we're going to look at how to actually split what's called create parts of our walls if we kind of want to see a breakdown of those assemblies sort of in a cutaway section style. And I got a little image here, and then I'll show you what I ended up with as a final result. And yeah, so let's just go ahead and start the stream here. So I pull this up. So this is basically where I think we can get to. Forgot to move my camera over here. This is basically where I think we can get to. And what we'll do is look at the overall system and then actually how to get to a kind of blow up that looks something like this. So that all being said, I'll jump into the assignment. Let's not forget about the assignment. So where does this really come into play? If it was me, I would even do, an additional little drawing somewhere. But if that's not allowed, I don't know exactly what the extents of D&D are. So what are the rules? What are the responsibilities of you guys? What are you supposed to be getting done, finished, complete? Really, the first key takeaway is going to be we can do something super simple like this up here. I can see that this person has done the kind of breakaway section of the front, the insulation, some substrate, a support, and then in the back, again, another support and 2 layers of drywall. So I think that is actually, in fact, the assembly from the floor below. So I feel like this is just a cutaway section literally at the floor plate there. So if I was just to zoom out here a little bit, for me, I think it's important to kind of get something like this together. So I'm going to show you how to do something like this with the eventual result that you can also have something like assignment 4 here. Make sense? So let's just get into it. So if I pull up Revit, I've kind of got a final version of what I imagine we're going to try and get to in the next, 30, 45 minutes or so here. So if this is what you're after, you're in the right place. I think it's important just to understand how to kind of get these systems together and how to make sure that we can show everything together. This showing the studs is a little bit more of an advanced thing, I would say. And if you can, I would say for the purposes of D&D, you do not have to do this. Both of the assignment examples that I have did not do this. So I'll walk through a kind of like basic version of how to get to our wall cutaway, and then a kind of more advanced version of how we would get the kind of stud version in here, and the little cutaway with our shaped version here. Cool. So before I forget, if you did watch the last video, there is one thing here that I did realize after the fact, and that is how we actually lock our 3D views. So I just want to cover that super quick so we could see it. You might be working with a partner, you might be working solo. It's a helpful thing to get to lock your views. So I'm just going to jump back to the previous video content. It's only going to take 30 seconds or so, but just so we could see, whoops, cancel A101 here. So say I've got my, activate the view, and I've got my 3D drawing looking perfect. It's looking exactly how I want it to look. And you're going to notice there's no real way to lock the kind of orientation of this view. So what we could do is if we right click, activate the view, you'll see the kind of string of items down here on one of our taskbars here. We got a bunch of stuff here. Unlocked 3D view is what we're after. So if it says locked or unlocked, so if I lock this, if I click this, it's going to say save orientation and lock view. And that's it. now this view is locked. So the caveat to this is that now if I go and try and spin around here, I'm locked. So if you or your partner have said, oh, I just want to go do a quick spin around the 3D view here, how do I do that? You can't, because we're now kind of stuck. So turn it off. We can just unlock view, and now we should be free to roam. Super quick, just in case. I'm somebody who doesn't typically lock views, but if it's something where you definitely don't want to start messing around with the orientation, say you got a bunch of notes in here, which you may have notes. I don't think the assignment has notes. No, it doesn't. But say you did have notes in there, you can kind of lock that view, keep those notes in place, that type of thing. All good. So let's jump back to our little blow up of the system here. So a little 3D view. And this is what we're after today. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to just start a new file. So let's just go new. And just to give you an idea of what we're after, new architectural template. Sure. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to pick a wall assembly. So, you know, for us, maybe it makes sense. I can actually just drag and drop this wall assembly here. So I'm going to go ahead and give myself a little copy here. We'll copy it in here. That's cool. Give it a couple seconds to copy over. Just going to go ahead and delete that. All I want is the wall. So where is my wall? Tile precast. So this is from the assignment that I had from somebody from the class. And I've just gone ahead and drawn there just a little wall here. Whoops. Doesn't really matter for this exercise, for what I'm doing, how tall it is. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just set it to, let's call it to 3000. And that's cool. And now, why don't I flip it? I'll flip it to look towards me. And now I'm actually going to jump to our 3D view. Blam. Look at our beautiful, beautiful wall. Still 0. Yep. Really hard to tell which side is the concrete side. Let's go ahead and set this to, oh no. Is my assembly not in here? Yeah, it's in here. Dun, 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 dun. Hidden line. Interesting. Interesting. Hopefully I haven't messed something up, but we're going to go ahead. We're going to keep going here. So I'm going to section box this off, and let's see. If you haven't seen how to use a section box tool, there it is. So it's just because it's seen as a box here. So the edges are all tidied up. Scared myself for a second there. So remember, even just from last class or last virtual class here, this little section box, turn it off, turn it on, and it resets it. Right, so what I want to see is kind of the overall makeup of what our wall is doing in here. I'm probably going to keep this section box on for most of this exercise, just so we can kind of see what we're doing. I'm probably going to turn off my levels, jump down here, turn off levels. Doesn't really affect me right now what those levels look like. So come in here and just go to our edit type here, and we should be able to see, you know, first important part is that we've got a bunch of assembly information in our Revit family. So make sure you've got something. If you've just got a typical generic wall, this is going to be really hard to showcase the tool. So just a heads up there. If you're like, why isn't it working? It may in fact be because you've only got one layer of information. We need at least two. Ideally, you're going to have something like this. Fair warning, I haven't seen a way to get the membrane to show up because obviously it's 0. So if that's something you're interested in, we'd have to find some other solution here. But membrane being 0 thickness doesn't show up. All the other assemblies will show up. So if I go ahead and hit OK, looks good. We got concrete, some insulation, a little substrate, some structure, and some gypsum on the inside. All good. Keep going. So take some coffee. Grab some coffee. Keep going. So the first thing is, how do we get the wall to split up? This is a pretty unique feature set inside of Revit. I've not seen this in other softwares. There's two ways that I would do this, just fair warning, full transparency. If it was me doing this assignment, trying to get to something like this, I would, unfortunately or fortunately, use SketchUp. I'd use SketchUp, no problem, 100%. I would just build this, way more flexibility, way more kind of like drawing whatever I want to draw. However, we've got Revit. We're going to use Revit. So how do we do that? Inside of Revit, we've got a couple tools here. These are probably tools you've never used. They were tools I'd never used until last week. So probably good for us to know-ish. Super simple, quick version to get us to this. This little jam right here. Super simple, quick version to get us to this. I will do that version right now. So come up here. We're going to click on our assembly. So right now there's nothing clicked. Click on the assembly and come over here to the modify and then create panel. And we've got create parts. So create parts is, again, it's a unique feature set to Revit. If I click on that, it's actually going to split my wall into all of those constituent assembly pieces. So, maybe this is useful for this exercise. It might be useful for other exercises. What ends up happening is, even though we are going to make modifications within this parts tool, your wall in 3 dimensions is going to remain. So this is super important, because if you think you're making changes to the parts and it's going to affect the rest of your model, my understanding is it will not. We've kind of got a parts view, and then we've got the kind of assembly view. So right now we're going to swap from our assembly view. And the way you can tell that is if you come over here into our 3D view, you could see parts visibility. And if I drop that down, we see show parts, show original, and show both. Cool. So right now it says show original. Click on the wall, come over to my modify tab, come over to the create panel, hit create parts, click that. And now look at that. We could see all of the constituent components. We can actually select all the constituent components of that wall assembly. Great. If I come back over here to show parts, if I say show original, it's going to pop me right back into my assembly view, right? So just so you know, you're not losing any information. This is just a way to kind of create other diagrams here. I'm going to show parts. Again, we'll do the super quick version the way that I imagine you might use in D&D. And the way that I think that the assignment has done this is super quick. And again, back to just the example here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever it is, layers here. I think it's actually the same layer buildup. So all good. I'm really trying to find out. Okay, that's why. So it's only once it's cut through. So there's no finish really showing on the outside. That's okay. And what we're going to do is, if I want to show this from, in this case, we're looking at it, call it like this version. And for now, why don't I just turn off my scope section box real quick. So I'm just going to turn this off so it's not quite in my way. If we just want to kind of strip away each piece, so I'm going to strip away each piece of this building, click on the wall, come over here into our properties panel, our properties palette, and click show shape handles, blam, like that. And now we've got these pieces, right? So these pieces are now showing up. I'm going to do the same thing. Actually, let's come all the way down. All the way down. Same thing, click here, all the way down. Keep going. This looks very much like what happened in the little studio assignment there, a little D&D assignment, in order to show each layer of our building, of our assembly. All right, so now we've got, precast, insulation. I think that's some dense deck in there. Some studs, some interior studs, and then 2 layers of drywall. So if you don't have this turned on, you can't adjust it. But now we've got this wonderful little cutaway section. You could, of course, go the other way. You know, if I've got to come down from the bottom, we can do something like this. The other thing that I might suggest is I always like to see a kind of, you know, not just a cutaway in one dimension, but we might even, oh, I see. So what's happened here is that because my section box is actually cut off the edge, I got to turn it back on so you guys can see the shape handle. So let's go ahead and do that. Section box, turn this back on, move this out. And now I'm going to pull this in, for instance, just another version where we can kind of pull things back and see that, see that entire assembly. Yeah, looks good. So what happens if I go ahead and I'm going to make this, maybe I'll make this shaded here, pretty gray. So we can definitely do some things. I know that I could see from the other example that I was doing yesterday that it does seem like we've got to get this little pink insulation in here. So if we go ahead and do that, I know this is the insulation. It's really hard to see. Oh, there it is. Material rigid insulation. So we can see that. Oh, interesting. Okay, so we can change the material as we see fit. So if we wanted to change this to something else, we could do that in the parts menu here. I'm going to leave it on for now, material by original. But what I'm going to do instead is I'm actually going to change the color of this material, and let's get it to look a little pink or blue. So I can't do it in the visibility graphics. I'm going to have to go into the wall assembly itself. So in order to do that, I'm actually going to go back to our original view, and I'll show you what that looks like. So I'm going to come back up here where it says show parts visibility. I'm going to go back to show original, click on the assembly, go into edit. Oh, it's not pink yet. Okay, let's go into edit structure. See if we can get, it is pink, isn't it? Rigid. Oh, it's not pink. Okay, so color. Let's choose a nice pink. Cut pattern should be good. Let's see what we get here. I'm going to hit OK. See how it shows up pink in our little assembly here. Let's see if this is going to work. Right. Have to come back to our show parts. Wonderful. Pink assembly it is. So, you know, you can change that to whatever color you need to. But in terms of changing the overall assembly here, it's just a matter of changing one color. And now we can kind of see the insulation start to really showcase itself here. Yeah. So that's the kind of major takeaways for how to actually get this to kind of show up properly. Always remember you can swap back and forth between show original and show parts. So you haven't lost anything. That wall will always be there. It's just a way to kind of showcase maybe parts of the wall, as I think is part of the exercise. Another thing we might want to do is to actually draw, you know, some piece of, you know, in this case, these kind of cutaway profiles. And what we can do here, if I wanted to do that, is I actually have to go to the elevation view. So in our case, we are going to go to the, it's going to be the south view. We're going to start to mess with this a little bit. And let's see if we can get there. It may also ask for a reference plane. So let's just, we'll see what we get. Let's do this. South. Wonderful. Let's see if I can turn on my parts visibility. So I'm going to do show parts. Look at that. Wonderful. Turn off levels for now. So, you know, I know each of these pieces is each of my layers, right? So this is my concrete. I can see that says concrete precast down here. And now I'm going to jump back up to divide parts. If you see this, so I've clicked on one of the parts. I can hit this divide parts function here. It's going to ask me for a plane, a working plane. So I'm just going to hit pick a plane. Let's just pick the front. Okay, try this again. I'm going to jump to 3D actually. Let's do it this way. Do it a slightly different way. So if I want to give myself a little, let's reset this shape. Oops. Divide parts. And now do this one, and I want to edit the sketch. Oh, I see. This is what I did wrong here. Okay, let's do show here. Bum, 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 bum. Give me 1 second here, guys. We are divide parts, and then I'm going to add the sketch. I'm going to set my work plane, pick a plane. This is why it's just messing up somehow. Pick the plane, and now if I jump here, is it going to let me? Let's just do this real quick. See if we can do it this way. Aha. There we go. Okay, super quick. So that was, I'm going to redo that just because that was something that's caused me a little hiccup there. So we got to make sure, I'm going to undo all that just so you can see what's going on here. Don't want to cause any confusion. So first thing we got to do is divide parts. So if I click on the part itself, looks like we might actually do this in 3D. So let's see if we can do this. Divide parts, and then we're going to do edit sketch. And then I have to make sure that I'm picking the right plane here. So I want to set the work plane. I'm going to pick a plane, select the front face here. That looks good. And now if I wanted to kind of do a little cutaway here, something like this. If I hit check mark here, I don't get anything. So I'm going to have to make sure that I create a closed loop for my little section piece here, hit check mark. And now if I hit check mark, I've got 2 subsequent pieces of the parts of this. And how this works is if I want to actually exclude a part, I can actually come in here and say exclude. And now we've got a little bit more of a cutaway, right? So in this case, maybe we want to do the same thing with the installation. If I come in here and hit divide parts, I'm going to see if I can do the same thing, but I don't know if it's going to let me given, let's just try it out. Let's see what happens. Wonderful. Check mark, and same thing, exclude parts, and so on, right? So we can start to imagine what this looks like. So if we want to come in here and we can say edit division here, we can come in here and edit the sketch. You know, maybe I want to move this somewhere down here instead. I could see here that you could see where the work plane is. It's using the work plane that I generated originally. So it's up to you if you want to change the work plane as you go, or if you want to keep the same work plane, that's also totally fine. So if I hit check mark here, right, ta-da, you'll notice that the shape handles have disappeared. You can turn those back on, and now what ends up happening is it's going to follow that edge. So you can see how it's following that edge there. It's also going to keep the original geometry. So if I want to unhide this here, restore parts, this might be helpful for something. Say you're doing divisions or something that you have a use for this for. For our purposes, we're just going to be using it to exclude parts and start to build a little 3D cutaway section here, right? Cool. So if I jump this back to hidden line here, right, we don't see any of the cutaway components. We will probably see them if we turn it to this side. If I pull this forward, all the way forward, you can see our little insulation in here and our little precast. Remember, we've got a pretty beefy, there we go, 1:25 is probably more reasonable for us. But again, this is really just a nice way of showing little pieces of the overall assembly. Cool, right? The last thing I kind of wanted to get to was, is there a way where, you know, we've got this wall and maybe you really want to show, oh, I don't have it. Oh, right, I do have it from here. Say you really, cancel. You really want to show studs. So how would I show studs as part of the assembly? Unfortunately, there's not really a good way to do this. It's not really a good way to do this. So if you've got what you need for the assignment, then I would advise that you pause the video, stop the video, rewind the video, because now we're going to get into a kind of more advanced version of how I might build this wall, how you're more than welcome to build the wall, but it's just going to introduce a lot of complexity into the model that you might not want. So fair warning, disclaimer, this is definitely a more advanced thing. It's going to include building essentially 3 separate walls. And I think that these can be a little bit nebulous, a little bit kind of difficult to navigate inside of really complex models. For a one-off exercise, like I've kind of got here, where I'm just showing the assemblies, could be super helpful. But when we're talking about parts, we're talking about 3 walls or 4 walls or whatever we're talking about in terms of the overall assembly, we want to be careful with how many walls we've got as part of a total assembly, especially if we've already got stuff started inside of Revit and you haven't started with these assemblies. Anyhow, let's try and do that. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to say I want to have the studs show up here in this part. Seems straightforward enough, right? If we go into our overall assembly, if I come back to show original, if I come back to the overall assembly, you would think that inside of my structure here, well, I show that I've got a metal stud layer, right? So the metal stud layer, it's showing up here, this little green zone for us. But unfortunately, Revit just doesn't build, every little piece of structure. Not entirely sure why, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. So we're going to have to build our own. So what does that mean? I'm actually going to have to split this wall into 3 separate components. So I'm going to have the precast with the insulation and a little substrate, and then I'm going to have the stud wall, and then I'm going to have the second stud wall, and then I'm going to have these 2 layers of drywall. So technically speaking, that's going to be 4 different layers. You guys ready? Okay, let's do this. So I'm going to go ahead and first thing I got to do is delete a bunch of stuff. So I'm going to keep everything up until the metal stud layer. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete. Blam, done. So that's it now. If I turn back on my, where is my parts? Show original. If I turn back on my parts, those parts as part of the exercise are still there as a kind of layover of what's happening here. What I want to do now is build those two stud walls back to back. One's I think 152 and the other one's 89. So let's go ahead and do that. Yeah. So how do we do that? So can anybody, remember something that might be part of a stud family? Well, not really, but we do have the wonderful curtain wall. So if I come over here to curtain wall, and what we can do is we can imagine the curtain wall mullions as 2x4s. And or 2x4s, I should say, as 38 by 89 or 38 by, I think it's going to be 152 in this situation. So I'm going to go ahead and just start drawing here. I think my overall height I set to 3000, and let's see if we can get to, where is my location line set to center line? That's okay. We'll just build it this way. Sure. Great. Nothing. Useless. Flip it to the other side. So in actual fact, when we draw this, there's nothing there, right? So there's nothing here. I've just got this silly kind of curtain wall. It's empty. What I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to duplicate this, and we'll call it something clever here. So edit, duplicate. We'll do, instead of curtain wall, we'll call it 152 steel stud wall. And now we've actually got, I always mix this up, so let's see if we can get this to work properly. Layout, is it going to be the horizontal grid or the vertical grid? I actually think it's going to be the vertical grid. We want to do 400 or 800 millimeters on center. So what we'll do is a maximum spacing of 400, and we'll just see if this works real quick. That is correct. Come back in here, edit type. 400 millimeters on spacing. That looks good. And then for the vertical mullions, we actually need to find one that works. So for now, I'm just going to set it to 50 by 150, which is not accurate, but just so you guys can see what I'm after here. If I hit apply here, oh, I'm facing the wrong way. That's okay. We're going to hit okay just for now. And I'm actually going to flip this. And I'm going to move it back. Let's move this whole jam. Oops. Move this whole jam back. It's not linked to anything yet, so that's cool. What I'm going to do is, what do I want? I really want to align the back of my wall, the front of my mullion. Back of my wall with the front of my mullion. Here we go. Something like this. And, you know, if I drag this out a little bit, I'm going to get another little 2x4 in here. So remember that we're just pretending, I know it says curtain wall, but we're just pretending that this is really representing our 2x4 steel system, steel stud system for support. So of course, some problems here. We can see we've got some glass, so some spandrel panel glass in here. It's quite a bit of complexity to this system already. And what we're going to want to do is a couple things. So first thing we can do is this, what do we say, 150 by 50. Really what we want to do is we want to get this to a 38 by 152. So we're pretty close, but let's pop open. If we come to our project browser, we'll pop open our families. We'll come all the way down to, where's my curtain wall? Not here. This is going to be in our profiles. Got to remember where this is. Oh, there it is. There it is. Curtain wall mullions, excuse me. So I'm looking for curtain wall mullions. I'm coming down to rectangular mullions here. I'm going to right click. I'm going to duplicate this. And we're going to call this 38 by 152, which is what the size of a standard 6-inch stud is going to be. I say 6 inches because that's what we used to call it. So 152 dimensions. So let's do, so it must be 38. Here, let's do this. So 19 and 19. Let's hit OK and see what we get. Oh, I haven't changed it yet. Okay, now I got to come back in here and we're going to come into our edit type and we're going to come down here. We're going to change our 38 to 152. Look at that, magical. So that's our actual stud in there. And is there anything else we can change? We probably don't want to show the glass, right? So one thing I did notice when I was building this the first time is if we tab select, so tab select, I'm going to click on our panel, and right now I've got a glazed panel. There's going to be a couple different styles of panels we got. We got glazed or solid, right? So glazed or solid. Well, we don't really want a solid panel, but say for instance that you did have insulation in this wall, you might want a solid panel. And what we can do is we can then edit this, duplicate it, and we'll call this rigid. Actually, it's going to be rock wool insulation, so we'll do semi-rigid insulation. So let's do this version. I'll show you this. The offset we want to set to 0. And the thickness we want to probably set to the same as our stud. So let's set it to 150 or 152. I guess, you know what, I'm just going to set it to 150. Hit OK. Magical, right? So what is this material though? We haven't set it. So let's make sure the material in here, maybe we want to set it to that same pink insulation. So let's see if we can do that and get to our rigid insulation, which is showing up pink here. Hit OK again. Look at that. So we got some pink insulation in here. Drop our wall. I can right click and select all. So I'm going to right click, select all instances visible in view, drop it down to semi-rigid insulation. And now we got a bunch of semi-rigid insulation living inside of our little wall. Right? I think this was actually the assembly, so I'm going to double check what we got over here. What's the assembly? Oh, 184. Whoops. So 184. So, super quick if you want to change all this stuff. How would we change it? I'm going to modify this to be 184 instead of 152. So I'm going to rename it. Remember, when we rename things, nothing updates. So let's make sure that we are going to double click, pull this up, and I'm going to make this 184. I'm going to change this material to steel. It'll let me. Steel stud layer, sure, hit OK. So now we've got, it's actually, grown by, what's that, 32 millimeters. So I got to move this back by 16. That should get us back in action. Perfect. So second thing we got to do is make sure that we change our thickness of our semi-rigid insulation panel back to 184. Hit OK. Ta-da. Back in action. So never fear, Revit can save your work and all that fun stuff, but Revit can always have an ability to modify, and we can always update things as we see fit. Step 1, first wall here. So what's this? The second layer here is, I know that there is 89 millimeters. What do we got? Oh, we got both insulations. So, and then another layer of 89. So I'm actually going to copy this. So remember, CO is copy, and let's see if we can. Is it going to let me? Yes, it is going to let me. And then we're actually going to give ourselves, oh, you know what? I just realized should probably rename, because I know you guys aren't, maybe you aren't working in big groups. Make sure you're labeling everything correctly. So 184, steel stud wall, for example, hit OK. And then the second one here, I'm actually going to edit type, but I'm going to duplicate this time, and I'm going to do an 89 steel stud wall. And 400, that's cool. But what's going to happen is I'm going to modify, again, coming back to our mullion, rectangular mullion here. I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to make this 38 by 89. And I'm also going to have to make a new wall panel, a curtain panel, excuse me. And let's just do this real quick. So 38 by 89, cancel. Unlike me, you should save your work. Edit type, we'll drop this down to 38 by 89, hit OK. Oh, I didn't update it yet. That's why. Double click in here. I got to make this 89. Hit OK. Nice and cute and tiny. Look how tiny these are. Magical, right? So nice and tiny. Now I actually have to go in here, edit type, duplicate, semi-rigid insulation, and I'm going to say 89 millimeter. So make sure we got 89 in here. Hit OK. Everything's going to shrink. Should probably select all instances. Ah, nuts. Okay. You see what happened there? So silly. So I wonder, is there a way to do this wholesale? See if we can do this. Can I set the panels in here? Hit cancel. Alas, in this case, I'm just going to select each. Oh, bastard. I'm going to select each one of these ones, control, just tab selecting each of these, and I'm going to change this to 89. So we come down here. Where is my other panel? Did I delete it? Don't tell me this is an instance parameter. Oh, maybe I messed it up. Okay, let's just try this again. 89 millimeters. 89. I might have gone too far back in my, yes. Whew. Deep breaths. There we go. Gotta do all that over again. Tab select, tab select, tab select. Control click. Drop down. Make it 89. Nice. Wonderful. And now I'm actually just going to pull this forward. So I'm going to pull this forward to here. Just so that we can read that there are in fact two separate walls here. So, ta-da. Last one here. So we actually have to have a fourth wall in this case. So I'm just going to do a real quick wall here. Let's do doesn't really matter what we choose, but let's just do this real quick and drag it across a nice beefy, get out of here. Oh, for fuck's sake. Close this. And now I'm going to push this back to the edge of our curtain wall and pull this down just a little bit. And I'm going to come in here, and all I really want is 2 layers of drywall. So I'm just going to call this wall 2 layers drywall. Whoops. Gypsum. Let's make sure we edit this. I don't need this. Sure, let's do it this way. Delete. Up. 16, 16. I'm gonna do drywall here. So if I type GWB, I think it's gonna give me drywall. Looks good. I'm actually just gonna delete this because then we can just duplicate this, hit OK again. And now we should have 2 layers of drywall. Ta-da! 2 layers of drywall. And remember, we can always make our parts here and grab my show shape handles. Blam. Looking pretty good. And that is really what I wanted to get to. So I hope this has been helpful. I think that I'm going to try and keep these shorter because I feel like everybody's only got so much attention span, myself included. So I think that as part of the exercise here, it's helpful just to get a kind of overall assembly, but then even just some ideas about what you might want to show in your drawing. So if we go to assignment 4, you can see, again, assignment 4, the example I've got, pretty light touch on here. We've got just, the breakdown, basically that first thing that I did where we've got create parts, and then we kind of do the shape handles and the little cutaway here. Change the kind of the way that the installation is looking. Make sure we got that pink on there. But anyhow, that is that. That is basically all I wanted to get to. And I thank you everybody for watching these videos. Super helpful for me to kind of get more familiar with some of these more, we'll call them more refined components as they are related to the D&D content. I think it's important for you guys to see how this all comes together. And thank you for the person who sent me their model, I guess a couple weeks ago now, for the use of that model. Really appreciate it, and happy to help when I can. So I'll post this video shortly, and you guys should, well, you're not going to know that I'm posting it. So I'm going to send out a little note that says, come check this out. So we got part A, part B. If you've got questions about either of these things, let me know. Tried to keep it as tight as possible with as much information as I could. And with that being said, we'll see you guys next Friday. So talk to you.